Hey everyone! Welcome to the next installation of the Nature Coast Biological Station's Virtual Discovery Days. My name is Natalie Stephens, and I am a recent University of Florida graduate with my bachelor's degree in marine sciences. Since graduating from UF, I have been an intern under Dr. Savanna Barry since January 2020, assisting her with Cedar Key's Living Shoreline projects. So today I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we've been doing in Cedar Key. Most people would be surprised to learn that erosion is a natural process in coastal ecosystems. However, humans have drastically modified natural processes along most shorelines. In addition, sea level rise has caused erosion to accelerate in many areas. Whatever the cause, when erosion threatens infrastructure, such as homes, that's when we can mitigate the erosion processes by creating a living shoreline. So what exactly is a living shoreline? A living shoreline uses natural elements, such as oysters and grasses, to buffer wave action, absorb storm impacts from major events like tropical storms or hurricanes, filter pollutants, fight coastal erosion, and provide food and shelter for fish, shellfish, and wading birds. A living shoreline approach is just one of many choices that property owners have when deciding how to manage an eroding shoreline. As you can see from the graphic, shoreline armoring approaches such as seawalls and rock revetments are on the other end of the spectrum. While there are many places that require stronger interventions, many places along Florida's coastlines are suitable for the more environmentally beneficial and cheaper living shoreline solution. So the next question you might be asking is, what makes up a living shoreline? Hard substrates such as shells or concrete forms can be included in a living shoreline to provide structure that helps buffer stronger waves and has the added benefit of providing an attachment surface for oysters. Oysters have lots of environmental benefits, such as improving water quality and forming complex structure for other critters to inhabit. If the shoreline has eroded severely, bringing in new sand might be necessary to build up the area and allow vegetation to establish. Finally, marsh and dune vegetation plays a crucial role in living shorelines because the stems, leaves, and roots of these coastal plants absorb wave impacts, hold sand in place, capture new sand, provide habitat, filter pollutants, and capture carbon dioxide. To give you some perspective of what we are trying to implement on our G Street and Airport Road living shoreline sites, here's Cedar Key's Joe Raines living shoreline that was completed in 2017. Before, the Joe Raines shoreline was eroding, leading to a loss of both beach and vegetation along the shoreline. But after a local team worked with the University of Florida on a solution, the Joe Raines shoreline was restored by implementing marsh transplants with grasses such as smooth cordgrass and salt meadow cordgrass, and by adding oyster reefs to help minimize future wave action. Anyone visiting Cedar Key can go and visit Joe Raines to see a working living shoreline for themselves. Even on the completed Joe Raines Living Shoreline project, we are still doing post-construction monitoring. One of the activities I assist with as an intern at the station in conjunction with our Living Shoreline projects is fish community monitoring. Fish monitoring is also happening out on our G Street and Airport Road shoreline sites in pre-construction, during construction, and post-construction phases. Using pike nets and baited minnow traps, we have caught Atlantic blue crabs, different species of anchovies, and different species of fish, such as sea trout. Shown here is one of our pike nets out on G Street. We deploy the nets at high tide and let them soak for at least 2 hours before looking to see what's been caught once it reaches low tide. One of the goals of the project is to compare fish communities in areas where habitats are being restored to areas where habitats remain degraded. This will help us determine some of the returns on investment for the habitat restoration effort. Another living shoreline monitoring activity we've done at NCBS has to do with the vegetation community. Along preset transects on Airport Road, staff members travel down the shoreline with a PVC quadrat capturing photos with help from a drone. These photos are later analyzed with help from a specialized computer software system. What lies within the quadrat range from substrates such as sand, silt, and oyster to herbaceous vegetation including smooth cordgrass and saltgrass to other types of vegetation such as black mangroves. As with the fish data, the pre- and post-living shorelines data will be compared across sites. Lastly, another way we learn about the community's engagement with our living shoreline restoration projects are stakeholder surveys. The Shoreline Use Assessment Survey was adapted to gather information about stakeholders' use of the shorelines around Cedar Key and assess how much they agree or disagree with the ecosystem functions that the current shoreline is doing. This survey has provided us with useful information about what the stakeholders believe is missing from the shoreline and how receptive they are to the implementation of a living shoreline along sites like Airport Road. On top of living shoreline monitoring and stakeholder surveys done by NCBS staff, our living shoreline projects would not be possible without the help from our amazing volunteers. Community members, students, teachers, and visitors from locations such as Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, New York, and more have come to one or many of our Spring 2020 Living Shoreline Volunteer Days in Cedar Key. With a wide range of activities to perform, volunteers aren't afraid to get down and dirty to assist us with living shoreline restoration tasks. One activity volunteers have assisted us with is constructing a plant nursery. At Cedar Key's local park, Cemetery Point Park, the Nature Coast Biological Station has constructed a nursery to rear and propagate plants that will be transplanted onto the Airport Road and G Street Living Shoreline projects. Volunteers have been helping split and repot over 1,500 individual plugs of grasses, such as Spartina alterniflora, also known as smooth cordgrass. Volunteers have also been assisting staff members with constructing oyster sills. UF's own Dr. Mark Clark devised the formula and built the mold for the triangular reef prisms. With the help of volunteers, raw materials become building blocks for oyster sills made entirely of biodegradable materials such as jute mesh. These reef prisms will be filled with recycled oyster shell and placed along the G Street shoreline to serve as attachment substrates for oysters. And as if we couldn't get enough of oysters, volunteers have also been helping with oyster relays. This consists of volunteers and staff going out on Airport Road and G Street at low tide when the shoreline is fully exposed to relocate any healthy oyster clumps to adjacent areas outside of the area of the reef footprints. A total of 16 9,600 square feet areas were cleared of oysters to make way for sandfill and reef pallet balls that will be deployed onto both living shoreline sites later this summer. Lastly, a way for volunteers to become one with the plants is through helping out with marsh transplants. To prevent further shoreline erosion on Airport Road, we have been digging up salt marsh cordgrass from one spot where we will later replant it to put some on the exposed, eroding shoreline in hopes that in coming years, our 2,000 individual propagules will become a dense, vegetated salt marsh. Bystanders walking or biking by are always eager to learn what we are up to when performing these transplants, with one bystander even telling us we were the heroes of the earth. None of the Living Shoreline projects would be possible without the help from NCBS staff, especially the leaders of the project, Dr. Savanna Barry and Mark Clark, Florida Sea Grant, our permitting officers at the Department of Environmental Protection and the United States Army Corps of Engineers, and our wonderful volunteers. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope to see you at our next set of volunteer dates in the future. Keep an eye out on Facebook for volunteer opportunities.